Oh God.
Now, remember when we said we were going to be back in May?
That was a very ambitious.
That was so ambitious because May came and went.
And now we're in June. Well, as of recording this, we're at the end of May. Literally the last Wednesday in May.
Yeah, so practically June. Yeah. June is breathing down our necks, okay? But fortunately for y'all, we are back. And this time, we're back with a brand new book.
Yeah.
One that we've never read before. My name is Yasmin.
I'm Yvain.
And this is Exasperated. All right, now. So, I ain't come prepared for class, so I'm going to just reach over here.
Really, truly, we don't even need like one book. We don't need both books on the table.
All right, so we were prepared for class. Class. I'm just sorry, y'all. It's been a minute since we recorded an episode. All right, let's get down to brass tacks, okay? We are back with Blood at the Root. Sorry, what is that? Back with Blood at the Root by, I'm so sorry, yo, LaDarrion Williams.
I think you said that right.
I hope so. Now, Blood at the Root, so far it's been so good. But I don't want to jump into it too much. Let me let you talk and me bounce off of you, because that's how it works the best. It does.
As you could clearly probably hear my voice, I had a cold for like the past 2 weeks, so I'm just now starting to feel non-stuffy. So perfect timing, like, get it back to recording. But I think we can't talk about Blood at the Root without first talking about the author's intention of writing Blood at the Root.
Mm-hmm.
Now, usually I'm not the type of person to read the author's note because I'm just like, well, it's not the book. Like, I was like, just put it bluntly, like, I was never the type of person to really look behind the scenes of it. And most of the times, if I remember correctly, author's note comes at the end. Mm-hmm. So by that time, I'm either too devastated or just too like torn. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I don't want to read no more. Mm-hmm. But I found this one to be very interesting. I'm not going to read it word for word, but a little section, and it'll probably show up later on the TikTok page, that he says, let black boys hear the cicadas sing the songs to the Alabama sky. Let them feel that syrupy sweet sweat. Can't read. Syrupy sweat sticking to their clothes to their bodies. Let their stories be filled with the smell of the sweet cornbread and collard greens of their grandma's cooking. Let the words on the page reveal our young black boys who will be sitting at the feet of their grandparents and meet God. Let them spin magic from their fingers. Let them hold stars in their hair. Let black boys be the alchemists in their stories. Let black boys be seen. Let them be colored softly. Let them fall in love. Let them have adventures. And let black boys be the heroes of their own story. And I really and truly, when I read this author's note, was like, yeah. Because it's not very often that you would see an African-American male lead in a fantasy setting like this. If I'm correct.
No. I'm trying to not.
Because we've had, if you think about it, like, we've had Static Shock.
Yeah.
We've had Cyborg.
But those are more sci-fi.
Sci-fi, like superhero. Like,
yeah.
Fantasy-wise, like, okay.
I'm trying to think, and if anybody out there knows, then let us know. But as far as we have read or watched,
outside of okay, I think Children of Blood and Bone.
Yeah,
that one was taking place in a setting to where African Americans.
Well, they're African.
Africans.
Yeah.
Or people of darker skin complexion. That was like very much. Though they were the majority.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, makes sense.
But even in Legendborn, and of course, Tracy Deonn wrote that intentionally to where Bree was the only person of dark skin complexion, if I remember correctly, within the order itself.
Yes.
Again, as we all know, Bree is a young African American woman.
Yep.
But here we have this main character, not just not just a dark-skinned main character, but a dark-skinned main character written by another man who is also dark-skinned. So it's kind of like even before we jump into the book, like we kind of sort of see this. I don't want to call it twofold, as y'all know, definitions is not my strong suit. But we see this, we see this already breaking of the mold, because here we have a Black male writer writing a young African American, writing a young African American male main character in a fantasy setting.
Yeah,
that in itself is already unique.
Yeah, and I think I don't have anything to add to that, because like I said, I was trying to recall, have I ever seen, and I can't really recall. I'm trying to think. Besides, outside of, like, we talked about sci-fi, I can't really recall there being a African American male or African male. It might be like I haven't seen it all, because we haven't watched every single movie, we haven't read every single book. But in this fantasy setting, no. In fiction, yes,
yeah, of course,
yes.
But how many
times? But in
this
fantasy setting, I don't recall.
But how many times have it been fiction and a Black male character lead?
Like I said, like it's not uncommon.
And so this is just a different. I guess because for me, like, again, as a person who has played, and I've said this way earlier, like in the first episode, like episode 0, as a person who has played video games, as a person who has watched anime, as a person who has read a whole bunch and watched a whole bunch of romantic comedies, both more animated than actual, like, real life actors. Again, like, I haven't seen frequently a male African American or dark skinned main character. I think in recent times, and I haven't played it yet, the only one that I've seen was one of the main characters from Assassin's Creed Shadows. That's like, is not custom created. Like, this character, like this character is established in this world as this person.
But it just goes to show,
and even then, like, Assassin's Creed is more historical fiction, not even really fantasy.
It just goes to show, like, how far not just media, but everything, not just in books, but all of media, like, how far, not that we have come, but how far we have to go. Because then I'm trying, like I said, I'm really racking my brain and going, there had to be, like, what I'm saying? Like it's not to be like, I'm trying to be, there's a term for it, but not the opposite of a negative Nelly. I'm trying to, like, be positive Patsy or whatever. Like, I'm trying to, like, I'm really and truly racking my brain and thinking, man, there had to be a moment, at least one, where there is a main male character in a fantasy setting, and I cannot think of one. And it's sad, because then black or African or dark skin main male character, I can't even think of. I can't. I'm thinking, well, what if they were Native American or Native, or Hispanic, or even if they were Asian? Like, just not just a person of color. And I'm trying to think of, like, they're the main character, and the only one that I could think of is sci-fi. Even though, like, I'm gonna butcher it. The one with the rings. It was a Marvel movie.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah. Even though it did have some mystical characteristics in it, because it was using also, I want to say, Chinese mythology.
I can't even confirm nor deny.
I had some, like, just if it wasn't like strongly implied, but it was like it was in there at some point, but other than that, but that was more sci-fi than anything. And then it went in hand with Doctor Strange. I want to say like their worlds collided at some point. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute since I've watched
a Marvel movie, because I like to
wrong.
Yeah, it could be completely wrong. I like to binge watch. So and watch in order. So it's kind of like that, but I can't recall. And it's sad because then this becomes a rarity when it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
It should be common, because especially here in America, where Black folks are becoming the majority, but don't let other people live. People of color becoming the majority. And again, we're talking about in numbers, not in influence. Even though in that you could see where it's kind of sort of shifting, not as much as we would hope, but not as much as people would hope and think, but also like very much trend setting, very much trailblazing, very much, even though they don't get as much credit or recognition or respect, still being the head of the influence, especially like, I guess, again, social media is a vortex, a vacuum, but from what I've seen, it's a lot of African-American influencers who are leading in the influencing industry, or the social media industry, or however you want to call it. Because I don't want to call it the entertainment industry, because I feel like that's different.
Even though some can make the argument that social media is a part of entertainment, but that's
for some of the whatever is scripted, but what is not, especially talking about YouTube and TikTok, and people like are actually sharing their lives and making money. Like, it's not reality TV. That is their reality. So I feel like it should be its own category. If it's in entertainment, I'm going off on tangent. If it's in entertainment, it should be its own category, because it's not reality TV. It's reality for these people.
Right.
They're just sharing what they want. But it should be common, right? It shouldn't be a rarity for like, oh, I've never read this before. And hopefully in the future, and we know that in the future, it won't be a rarity where we'll read something of this caliber where, the main character is Black, he's a Black male, and he's dealing with magic. So it's kind of very interesting. It's very interesting to even talk about, because then we could talk about, and I'm a blabbermouth, so I'm going to stop in the next 60 seconds. We could talk about, we know why. We know there is no I wonder why.
Yeah, there's no mythical
wondering why.
Man, why
aren't Black men in the center more of moments like this or stories like this? There is no like, big mystery.
My non-existent beard at the moment.
There is no like, I'm shocked, I'm surprised. Like, no, like it's something that, because we're used to consuming other types of media, and we're purposely reading media by people of color, we're not that we didn't notice before, but it's now like in our face that there is a hole in the media. There is a hole in the industry where,
especially in this
fantasy department, where Black men is concerned, because it was even hard to find books written by Black men in the fantasy setting
to begin with, much less if they were written by Black men, but they may have,
or men of color. Let me say men of color, not just Black men.
The protagonist could have been a young woman, or someone aside from a male.
Yeah. So it took some searching, because we're like, well, we want to make sure that we're reading not just from women authors, but reading across the spectrum. And we just so happen to we just so happen
to stumble upon
this book.
English is hard.
English, as it, even though it is our primary language, for some god awful reason, English is hard. But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, we just so happened to stumble across this book, and it's like read the synopsis and go, okay, that fit. And actually, that sounds very interesting because I've never read something like this before. So it's a brand new experience for both of us. So every time we come on here and we talk about this book, it's brand new. There is no like, and I do remember reading this. It's not because we read it before and we're rereading it. It's because we actually, this is the first time we're reading this. So everything you'll see from our reactions, everything we talk about is fresh, brand new. Heck, we might go off on a tangent because we have no talking points. Because
this is all off the cuff.
This is all off the cuff now. There's no guidelines, and I'm scared.
But that makes for the best content. And I don't think we could call it a first episode of Blood at the Root without actually talking about
Blood at the Root. Yeah, we talked around it, but we didn't talk about it.
And so the funny thing is that the interesting thing, and I believe our main character is Malik Barron, according to Malik Barron.
Mm-hmm.
And so the interesting thing I find about it, especially, is I'm trying to rack my head because there's so much different directions I could go, but I'm trying to pick one for time's sake. I think the interesting thing I find about this character is that, first of all, we come across him, and forgive me because it's been like 3 weeks since I first read the first chapter. We come across him in the first line. Black boys like me don't have magic powers.
Listen.
And so, like, again, because we're trying to keep it to 20, 25 minutes, there's a whole lot that we could go into, but we see this, first of all, this acknowledgement that, you know what, yeah, and again, I'm not trying to read from the book because I was like, read it for yourself, but it's like this acknowledgement to where it's just like, okay, for the early part of his childhood, he really did believe, hey, I didn't have magic until that night, to where he ends up finding out that, hey, not only does magic exist, not only is magic real, but I have magic as well. But in this very same revelation, don't flame me too hard if I get facts wrong, he comes in a way to I don't want to say despise his magic, because that very same night, getting that revelation, he believes that, hey, it was because of me having magic and then me not being able to control it. And even though he was only 7 years old, the reason why my mother is no longer with me.
Magic comes very destructive. It's a very
his first
introduction with magic is very destructive and traumatizing, which plays very much into this Black experience, Black male trauma. Like, there is no, I don't want to say, oh, it's a trope or anything, but it is very much introduced in a way. It's not Harry Potter. There is no Hagrid knocking on your door being like, you never got the letters, and saying you're a wizard, Harry. Like, there is none of that. It comes in a very, very traumatic, destructive experience, and it makes him hesitant, and it makes him not despise but skeptical.
I think that's a better word.
Of himself, makes him feel guilty, saying this is my fault. Again, read the book, because the first act was just 84 pages, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be good. Like, I literally was reading this in the car, waiting for something to finish, and within an hour and a half, probably less than an hour and a half, 84 pages went like this.
Yeah,
it was very much captivating, very much like, oh shoot, I can't put this down. I want to see what happens next.
Especially since it's like, okay, you got this big old act 2. Like, okay,
yeah, like
he said, act 2 is,
yeah, like just like any good writer would do. LaDarrion, again, I'm so sorry, sets us up very much lays the groundwork in Act 1, tells us who Malik is, tells us what Malik's about,
his experiences from 7 all the way to 17 that made him into
exactly. He's angry, but he's caring.
Yeah,
like it's so conflicting. he's angry and upset and riddled with guilt, but then also has a good heart, which is like,
it's weird.
It's not,
well, no, I say it's weird because again, the usual portrayal is that either there is, and again, like I said, like my sister said, we haven't read all of the books.
Yeah, we haven't watched all of the movies. We haven't
watched all the movies, but most of the times, again, we don't usually see anger paired with caring. It's usually anger paired with, okay, I don't care who or what gets hurt. I'm on this war path of revenge. And usually caring is more synonymous. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But caring, especially for, I don't want to be controversial, but because I don't want to be controversial. But in my experience, from what I know, especially growing up, caring and being a dark-skinned man usually did not,
in the way that it's portrayed here.
Yes, that is not to say that you are heartless, but that open show of, okay, hey, basically, because Tay, if I pronounce that correctly, is like his adopted brother.
Yeah.
And this open care of, like, you know what, I'm here to protect Tay. Like, this is my brother, me and him, this is all that we have.
Yep.
Like, it was that open showing of, and like I said, maybe because I grew up in different environments than others.
Yeah.
But that open show of, okay, care usually wasn't that prominent between.
I wouldn't say it wasn't that prominent.
And
I would say, like, because he took on Tay as his younger brother, I will say that has been seen, but not in the depth that we're seeing it, and just in these 84 pages.
Right.
Whereas he's like carrying as a brother who he's lived with all of his life. And again, like, it's not like a father-son type bond. It is very much a brother to brother type bond. And Tay is underage, and so is Malik, but he's a year from aging out of the system. Tay still has a little bit more to go, but it's this bond and this care where he's like, no, I have to get my brother. This place is not conducive for him. I rather, even though I'm 17 with no job, no prospects, living off the land, being a bother to the government. If you've seen Pride and Prejudice, you know where I'm going with this. Whereas, like, he's 17 with no job. He's 17 with no money. He's 17 with no car. He's also 17 with no parents. He's 17 with no support. He's like, no, my brother, who isn't even related to me, but I have taken this kid on as my brother because that's all I have, is in danger.
Right.
And he's living in a bad situation. I could be selfish because you're a teenager. He could have been selfish and go, no, like, you know, at least he has a roof over his head.
Yeah, like, you know,
at least he's getting meals.
Just tough it out until
18, until you're 18, or tough it out until I can find a job, or tough it out until I could get myself together. No, he's like, nah, I'm done with high school. I have no money. I have $0 and 0 cents to my name. I just have enough to get me to Tate. I got to steal a car. I got to break Tate, get Tate, and steal money from these people. You know what I'm saying? And then we're deciding we're going all the way across country with no money, going across country
just for the chance
to start fresh. Can you imagine though? Like, I'm moving across country at 17 to start fresh because this, where I am right now, holds too much memories. It's too painful. And I don't want them looking for Tate. Whatever happens to me happens. right?
But as
long as Tate's okay,
safe.
Tate is safe. Tate's Tay.
Taye.
Tay. So Tay, not Tate, but Tay. As long as Tay's safe, as long as Tay is okay. Tay also is diabetic, so like Tay needs insulin. Tay needs care. Like I want to make. He wants to make sure that they're off living their best life and they never have to worry about being in a house or being in a place where they're abused, misused, never getting enough food ever again. And that for a 17-year-old to take on is heavy. As heavy because Tay is what, 5 years younger than him?
Well, we know Tay is young enough to where it's like toughing it out to 18 is just
it's not plausible. Not where they were living.
Not where they were, and not in the situation. Because I think the Tay's foster parent was while the wife wasn't as bad as the husband was abusive. Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Because I think Malik and Tay at some point lived together.
That's how they got to know each other. They lived together.
They lived in the foster system. In the foster system, and then if I remember correctly, like I said, it's been 2 weeks. When they got adopted together. And then Malik had an altercation with the foster father, and the foster father was basically like, "You can't live here no more." Yeah, and but the altercation was because of abuse, or because Malik was standing up to the foster father. It wasn't because Malik was trying to be a troublemaker, which makes for a good hero. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, LaDarrion is setting Malik's character up as he has all the qualities to be a good main character hero. Because he said let them be the heroes of their own story. Right. He's setting Malik up to let us know that yes, Malik is a Black male. Yes, Malik has no parents. Yes, Malik is angry. Yes, Malik is riddled with guilt, thinking that it is his fault. He's also curious about his past, because if he wasn't, he wouldn't even be going where he needed to go, finding his grandmother. He wouldn't, knowing that he has a grandmother, he wouldn't have went if he wasn't curious. But Malik also cares. Malik is also standing up for justice. He's not going to let anybody beat on somebody else, or at least on somebody that's much younger, and not going to let an adult abuse a child. Like setting up like this character where you're like, okay, I can see, we're out of time. I can see where there's going to be character improvement. There's going to be healing. Yeah. And it might not be in the sense where we're like, oh, he's no longer angry, but healing in the sense of he'll figure. I think between this and the next book, which should be out or coming out, time is
elusive. Time.
We didn't watch the
like movie. Hope is an illusion. No, hope. Yeah, something like hope like time.
One of those. Whatever the star said in the Mario movie. Yes.
And the clip will go here. Yes, I'm back with the shenanigans. But yeah, like I think LaDarrion sets it up, and I feel like I talk so much. LaDarrion sets it up so when we get into Act 2, when we get into the rest of the book, we're going to see this character unfold, and the mystery behind his mom's death unfold, and the mystery behind his heritage unfold, all unraveling at this one time. And there's going to be I feel like there's going to be very much a cathartic moment, or just like a aha moment, or a, you know what? Yes, moment. It's not in this book, in the next one, because I think it's a duology. It might not be. Who knows? But I feel like this is going to unravel in a way that we're not going to expect, especially because you're not used to reading a book by a Black male author whose character is a Black male character. Well, whose character is a Black male character. Yeah, the main character is a Black male character. We're going to see a lot of similarities between the ones that we've read before, but a lot of differences on how Malik handles
being thrust
into this environment,
which is completely new. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure, depending on where he was placed in foster care, that he did go to school with others who looked like him.
Yeah,
but here Malik is going to be thrust in an environment because, if I remember correctly, it is Cayman. Am I right? I think I'm right. Yeah,
not me grabbing the book knowing that I surely cannot. Cayman. Let's just call it
see you.
Actually, we will see you later. But
if I remember correctly, this is like a magical HBCU.
Yeah. So which is a totally again, like, because I never went to one, you never went to one, so we've TikToks of the HBCU experience, but never like attended it. So it's like reading about it from a fantasy point of view is going to be kind of cool. But go for it because I cut you off.
No, but I'm like, essentially I'm saying like what LaDarrion,
I mean,
is it for me, like, again, I'm excited to read it, even though right now I'm not like bouncing off the walls. I am excited to read it because this is like, okay, this essentially is a completely new experience.
Yeah.
Out of, again, if I'm wrong, but out of all the books that I have read that dealt with fantasy and even could extend it to like sci-fi or has this deep ingrained magic system. Like, I have read books to where is that, okay, there's a character who is dark skinned or a character who may have some sort of, who is of the darker skin complexion or the spectrum. But this is the first time to where they're not sharing the spotlight with 2 to 3 other people. He is the only point of view, as far as I know, that we're going to read.
Yeah, because God, in Ember in the Ashes, Saba, I want to say Tabitha, but Saba Tahir is a person of color. So, and that story is written, I think their characters are people of color, and Elias, which, okay, shameless plug, but if you haven't read the series in Ember in Ashes, read it. But Elias is one of the main characters, but like you said, because I was like, yeah, we have, but like you said, he's sharing his point of view, and I want to say with Lila and Helene, and I want to say maybe it's the book where he is the most of the main. It's probably like
the third book. Reaper at the Gates.
Wasn't that the second book?
No, the second book was A Torch in the Night.
So the third book,
Reaper at the Gates.
Yeah, where he's mostly the main the main point of view. I want to say it is the third book, but again, he's still sharing those spotlights. Whereas this is about Malik and Malik's experience. And so as far as we've read, it's about Malik. It's Malik's experience. It's from Malik's point of. It's from a point of view viewing Malik. I can't remember if it's a single lens or a third out of body lens. I can't remember.
No, I think it's first person point of view.
Yeah, like I want to say it's first person point of view for a majority of it, right?
Yeah, as far as we've read in the
84 pages, but when we haven't seen that, and it's most definitely going to be a good read.
A lot of firsts. And I'm excited to see how, again, this kind of sort of being the introduction to, I don't want to say the genre, because the genre but I'm gonna be real, and we're coming to the end because we're already like past 30 minutes.
Dear God.
The way LaDarrion writes it feels like, I'm not gonna lie, it feels like the subgenre of a genre.
It does.
It feels like you have fantasy, but this is like most definitely Black fantasy.
Yeah. No.
Dark
like
skin fantasy. If you don't
I want to
Black
say
fantasy.
I want to say it's African American fantasy or African fantasy or African. No, because African fantasy I feel like is more like
it's children of
blood and bone or the Gilded Ones or like that. But like I feel like, and people have said that Legendborn in this book is very similar, and that's
a different point for a different time.
Point in time,
but I could see
Legendborn and this being in the same
genre. Yes.
Right, it is fantasy, but this I was telling you when I read it, it's like if I was an actual being who could do things really well. What I would do is pair like the Harry Potter theme with, I can't remember what it's called, like I'm black, y'all, I'm black, y'all, I'm blackity black. Like it feels like it should be like a mix between the two, because it's very much, he is very much African American black male. Like that is what it is. And with all the profanity, with all the profanity involved, like and I don't feel like it subtracts from the story, because from some people say, well, it's not necessary, but I feel like he's expressing himself as he would if he was standing right in front of me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it and we're time, but it feels like, again, like with Legendborn, and I don't think I felt that way with Children of Blood and Bone, even though I loved it. Children of Blood and Bone just
blew my mind.
Yeah, I loved Children of Blood and Bone. I loved it, but with Legendborn, and I guess because I'm not African, there's that, and there's a whole conversation about the diaspora.
That's a different conversation.
And is it really
for a different time?
Does it really represent mythical African fantasy? That's a whole another conversation for another time. But I do feel like I connected much more with Bree's story, even though I've never been in that situation. And I felt like when I read the first act, I was like, yeah, this is blickety black. This is black. This is blackety black. This is no sugarcoating black. No, this is for real blackety black. And if you don't like blackety black, you're not gonna like this book.
I think at one point reading the first section, I was just like, yeah, if you're not familiar with black terminology, you're gonna need like Urban Dictionary open next to you to be like, okay, what does this phrase mean? What is this term? Because the way that it is written is like there's no doubt about it that this is I'm trying to not quantify everything African American.
Yeah.
This is a dark-skinned character written by someone who has had the dark-skinned experience. Yeah, as a matter of fact, dark-skinned American experience. Like there is no yes, there's sometimes out of time. Stop talking to me. Yes, sometimes you will read a book and you're like, okay, this author could be black. They could be Caucasian. They could like me, but no, this is like you open it from the first 5 pages. No, this author is black, and this is beautiful.
Yeah,
that's it.
And you know what it also feels like? It feels like somebody is telling you a story. It feels like they're like, okay, so what had happened was exactly. It feels like I'm reading it, but it's like written in this very rich, and I don't know like how deep the magic system is going to go, but if there's a school for it, it gotta have a deep magic system. It has to run pretty deep, some type of curriculum. But it feels like somebody came up to you and they're like, so what happened was, and they start like telling this whole story, and they've got music involved because he has like Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce, and it's like, I'm like, okay. And you're just sitting there and you're reading and consuming, which is what you want, in a book, especially, I don't want to say this is his first one, but I know he's been writing other stuff, I know they or LaDarrion has been writing other stuff, but I don't want to say this is their first book. I can't remember, but if this is LaDarrion Williams' first book, then kudos, hats off. I know this is not the first thing he's ever written, because I'm thinking he's written other like plays or short stories. I want to say he's written a play or something, and another, or
he wrote Boulevard of Bold Dreams.
Okay, so not the first, but for me, my first introduction
it's his debut novel. Sorry, not to cut you off.
For my introduction to him and his work, I go okay, because after Act 1, I go, oh, I was like, the architect's not finished. I'm waiting on the architect to finish doing his measurements. I'm like, I could just keep going. I'm not gonna lie, and I haven't felt that way.
For me, I say it's Legendborn.
Legendborn, yeah. The first time I picked up Legendborn, I was like, I was like, oh snap! But we're out of time. So, like I said, everything that's going to happen for this series, and probably for the next couple of series, actually, is going to be pure
That's
reactionary. Nothing based upon what we've read before, unless we're connecting dots to previous stories. Nothing curated. It's all going to be, and that's why probably this is so long. It's all going to be off the dome, off the cuff, pretty much.
About 40 minutes.
Yeah, we're sorry. Off the dome, off the cuff, because this is something brand spanking new. Even though this book has been around for what, a year, 2 years, a year or two, or maybe, because what Beyonce's the Lion King, I want to say that was a little bit after the pandemic, a little bit before.
It's been around for the last between.
It's been around for a year, because they said a year.
He said the biggest inspiration was when was George Floyd.
Yeah, so he's been working on it, but then it doesn't mean that it was
one of the things that kicked him into gear into writing this book.
Yeah. So he's been working on it since then, but this says the text copyright 2024. It's 2024.
So like a year.
So about a year.
Since
it was originally published as in a different form when Black Boys Find Magic.
We're out of time. We're out of time.
Okay.
You're gonna have to edit this.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, like I'm just really interested in. I think we're gonna have a fun time with this, and I think based upon what we've read so far, this is going to be very interesting. And that's all I have to say, unless you have more stuff to say.
I think as we go on, I'm just going to continue to pile on. because it's so much, like, we didn't even touch how he felt about finding out that he went 10 years of his life believing that basically Tay was his only family, come to find out that he has his whole other
side. We didn't even go
into
that.
Like, again, as we record, as we read, we're going to cover this. But as for right now, we've been out of time for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm Yvain.
I'm Yasmin.
And this has been Exasperated. Blood at the Root, y'all. Join us on this journey.
See you later. Bye, guys.